Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Money Talks, an exclusive conversation with some of the most brilliant minds in business, entrepreneurship, and finance. Once again, we find ourselves here in beautiful Singapore. And as you guys know, e-commerce is near and dear to my heart. Anytime that I get to sit down with an e-commerce savant, an e-commerce giant, it's a privilege because many of you guys have tried to start an e-commerce business, whether it's drop shipping, brands, Amazon FBA. And there's this big notion in the market that is e-commerce is oversaturated, but I don't find that to be true. And today we have the privilege to sit down with somebody that is breaking the norm and is making that statement obsolete in many cases. I have the privilege to sit down with the CEO of Maneuver Marketing here in Singapore, one of the fastest growing companies in all of Asia APAC, with over $350 million in lifetime sales, focused on the health supplement space. Sant Qiu, how are you, brother?
Good to see you.
It's good to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time. We got the coffee. I know you've been grinding. I know you've been running around. So thank you for taking some time and being on Money Talks.
Thank you for having me.
So before we get started talking e-commerce, brands, how to scale, cash flow, everything people want to know how to get to the next level.
Right.
I want to take it back to the beginning. Before you were into entrepreneurship, before you even fathomed building a 9-figure e-commerce brand, take me back to the good old days.
How far do you want to go?
Don't take me ultra far. Don't take me to the inception point, but take me to the point where you started discovering entrepreneurship. Take me to the point where you started being like, hey, maybe I'm not going to do a traditional job. I'm going to, pave my own way.
Right. Well, my parents are their own business people themselves. So that is definitely a seed that's planted in me. So when I grew up and I just graduated from school, I studied subjects that were not really as conventional, that led to, pretty easy employment type of job. So I was studying like marketing and but more sociology, more like psychology and philosophy and stuff like that. So the usual route for that to get employment would be either, like you become a teacher, lecturer, or you do research or in those kind of lines. And as I was nearing to graduation, I wasn't really interested to go to those. And I happened to find like a direct response marketing at that time. And I thought, this is the practical application of, sociology, psychology, philosophy, and all these things, and apply it to real life because marketing essentially is like psychology and math.
Yes.
Right? So that's where then I started to follow into direct response, learning more about it. At the same time, at that time I was studying in Australia. I came back to Singapore. Then I was doing a bit of some work with people. So I remember one of the earliest job that I had was with this guy called Adam Khoo. He's actually one of the more known entrepreneurs in Singapore as well, very successful. And he's in the self-development space. He helps children, even adults as well, to improve their mindset, like change. Similar to kind of like a
Tony Robbins. Yeah.
So so he was one of the first companies that I worked with, and from there I learned about a combination of things like the business building, at the same time also about self-development, as well as the training business, the seminar training business and stuff. But along the way, I also knew that at that time, actually, when I started with him, I was thinking that I would probably like spend a long time with him. But along the way, my parents were asking me to go back to kind of like help with the family business. But when I left to help out with the family business, that's when it started me to think that I want to start my own thing because family business is complex.
Very complex. Some of the hardest business partners.
Yeah, exactly. So They have that very traditional way of looking at things, which I fully respect because they built the way they have done it. And I came in with new ideas and stuff like that. But of course, I was still very young. I have a lot of ideas, but didn't have anything to prove that it will work. And at the same time, also, I didn't have the discipline. Like they have been doing it like for so long. They wake up at like super early in the morning to do this. So I didn't have that type of discipline and routine yet. So there's a lot of frictions. So that got me to start thinking, maybe I will start my own thing. So when I eventually, cutting short the story, so when eventually I started with doing more like marketing consultancy for local businesses in Singapore, because I found that all the marketing learnings that I've learned, I saw that majority, almost like 98% probably, of local businesses, they don't know any of this and they don't apply any of this. So a lot of them are doing okay or surviving, some even like thriving to a certain extent, like despite not knowing all these things. So they are doing majority of what they're relying majority of what their growth of the business based on like operations.
Yes.
Instead of the marketing side. And I thought that if we can show them you are doing pretty well in operations, if you combine it with better marketing, then you will excel. So that's how I got started to start my own business, to do consulting, to teach the local businesses how to do better marketing. That's how I got started in the entrepreneurship.
I like that. So would you say that they were in some way, shape, or form your guinea pigs to test different methodologies to be able to utilize ad spend? Because were you just teaching them, or were you also taking them on and doing ad spend on their behalf, or taking on
great question.
On that journey?
I wouldn't say there is kind of like guinea pig, because when I started doing that, it was like social media marketing and all these things were not really.
They weren't super hot. Yeah.
Yeah. They were just starting. So I was doing a lot more like traditional direct response, like traditional ads on newspapers and stuff. By that time, when I was starting to do consulting, I was also helping to execute on some of the marketing. I knew a lot of things already that will definitely help them. At the same time, there were some theories or hypotheses that I've learned from some of the bigger mentors in marketing and all these things. In theory, I knew that they will work, but I've not really executed before. So then to a certain extent, I'm using the opportunities that I had with the clients and all these things to actually execute on them. Of course, along the way, I've also learned like from doing all those things, like what actually works, what actually don't work, or it has worked in certain contexts, but then in different contexts, there are certain tweaks that I need to implement to make it better and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say that they are guinea pigs, but definitely they have afforded me a lot of learning experiences to hone my perspective, my skills even better.
So you go from training because you have a professional background in marketing, and you see all these businesses that are doing well, but they're not maximizing their potential. They are limiting their ability to scale because they're relying on operations, word of mouth, referral, repeat customers, without the ability to inject new revenue streams because they're not marketing well, or they're not marketing at all. Especially a lot of them aren't doing Facebook ads, YouTube ads, Google ads, whatever it may be. That was the approach. What is it that transitions you from, hey, I'm helping, utilizing my time, spending my time, making good money, great money, training makes great money, to e-commerce?
Correct.
Because that's a completely different ballgame.
True. Taking a step back, when I was doing consulting, that was actually prior. Then when I was doing consulting, I started to also tie up with a few people to form partnerships, because I felt that instead of doing like consulting, there's limitation because it is my time and I'm helping a client, and how much I can help them also depends on how open-minded they are and stuff like that. So the impact that I can help to create, I felt was limited. And I formed partnerships to try to scale what I'm able to achieve. Because if I am not just doing consulting, but become a partner in the business, then the result can be bigger as well.
Yes.
However, after trying to partner up with a few people, it tend to not work out. Either, like I wasn't a very good, I didn't choose the right partners, or basically we have very different ideas of where we want to go with the business and stuff. So after a few tries, then the last was coming out of a partnership in about 2013. So in 2014, I decided to start so-called a new phase, and I mapped out a bigger vision of what I want to achieve in my life to a certain extent, because I felt I was also at a certain age, a certain period of time, and I was wondering to myself, existential questions, like
Philosophical questions.
philosophical questions, things
like what? What were you thinking?
Well, I was thinking I was doing okay. Life is okay if I'm happy where I am, but I'm approaching to like late 30s already, nearing 40s. I'm starting to question myself, like, is this what life is about? Is that all there is? And what will be at the end, what will be the meaning of life for me? What will I leave behind and stuff like that? So kind of like legacy questions. So I started to think that if I knew all these things, actually, it make more sense if I can share it. I can build something bigger. So that got me to start thinking, mapping out, like, if I'm starting from zero right now, and if I have a few more, decades, couple more decades, like, what do I want to achieve? And whether I will achieve that is a question that I will leave later, practicality-wise and stuff like that. But just from a standpoint of what kind of impact, what kind of vision do I want to build? And I started from there, and I worked backwards and map out. So on an overview-wise, I created like 3 phases. First is to start and build capital. Second is to use the capital to grow to more scalable businesses. Then third would be where we start to kind of like create an environment or a community where we teach what we have done. In first phase, we started by offering training. So previously we were doing, I was doing one-to-one consulting. Then we were doing training because training is, instead of doing one-to-one, I can do one-to-many, and creating a bigger impact to the local businesses as well. At the same time, doing training is high capital, low cost as a start. So then we were able to accumulate a good amount of capital. Then we moved to phase 2. Phase 2 is where we move to a few scalable businesses where there were a few choices that we wanted to go into. E-commerce is one of them. So e-commerce is definitely very scalable. And if you choose the right field, the market is huge, and it is still growing. So just now to your point earlier on when you mentioned e-commerce, is it like saturated? It's definitely not. I think that we are still just at the starting phase of e-commerce. At the moment, traditional businesses is still the majority in the world, but e-commerce will continue to grow and take market share from those. There will be
so you're basically telling me, for everybody that's listening, as a man that does through his business 9 figures a year in e-commerce, that e-commerce is not dead. E-commerce is not saturated. And in fact, it's the beginning of e-commerce.
Absolutely. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, like, of course, there will be those who are doing the e-commerce in a model that makes it less sustainable. But if you build proper e-commerce with proper foundation and operations and stuff, it is definitely still at the beginning.
You mentioned something interesting. You said, if you pick the right niche in e-commerce, talk to me about picking the right niche. Why is it that you picked the supplement niche as the first go-to? I don't know if it's the first go-to, but it was definitely one that worked for you. Why supplements and health products and not fast fashion or whatever other, Instagram brand that you see rolling around there that can't scale?
Right.
What was the reasoning behind that?
Okay, great question. So a bit of a caveat or disclaimer. What I share is purely, obviously, my perspective. And it might not be 100% correct, but it is how I see things. Why I chose supplement, a couple of bigger reasons. First is because I came from a marketing consultancy background. I do market research. So I did some market research and saw that basically the health trends. So there are multiple trends why we chose this. First is the health trends is growing. So not only just the older generations. I'm not sure whether you have heard of the term like the baby boomers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So baby boomers, there's this group of older generation who are obviously growing older and hitting a certain age. Now they are around 60 years old. They would be like a big chunk of them. They are at their peak financial, so they have the most money because they've worked hard and saved and all these things. At the same time, their biggest concern is health. So their biggest spending will be in health. So that's one trend. Second trend is the younger generation themselves. Health is becoming something that is more important for them.
Yes.
So first is the baby boomers. Second, the general awareness of health is also growing. Then we see that e-commerce is growing very fast, not only in terms of like Amazon and all these things, but also a lot of like smaller brands and all these things coming up, leveraging on social media, leveraging on tools like platforms like Shopify and all these things. So there were many factors that are converging. So we saw that there is a good opportunity. There's a gap. Plus, there's another additional factor that I took into consideration. Like, if we take a look at traditional health supplement business, the way that they've been sold, generally, two big distribution of how they do it is retail, when they, like the GNC, they open up all the stores and all these things, which is very capital intensive and tend to be very slow, not as efficient. Another way that tend to be a big channel for businesses like this is like the network marketing or MLM.
Your Herbalifes and things of this nature.
So not many yet are going to D2C. And so there's also another gap that I saw. And plus also my personal experience. When I was a young kid, obviously I pretty sickly when I was young. So when I was growing up, I took or get exposed to a lot of like TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. And that opened up my interest and my knowledge about supplementation. And I saw that in the modern world currently, like the supplement world is also becoming more exposed, more open to like such things like TCM.
Alternative ways of medicine.
Exactly.
You see a lot of stuff with like organic sea moss You see your She Legit, all these Instagram pages that have these esoteric yoga type
Ayurvedic,
feelings, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. So
and people are more open to those things now.
Yeah, and in some cases they are in fact like a lot more into it compared to,
And quite religious too when it comes to finding something that they stick to.
right. So the model itself is very interesting. There's obviously if you do it right, there's recurring. So a lot of factors makes it like we have a few criteria, and it check a lot of the boxes. So that's one of the areas that we are interested to go in, and that's why we went to it.
You said something interesting. You said e-commerce works if you find a sustainable model of e-commerce. Talk to me about unsustainable ways of doing e-commerce versus a sustainable way of doing e-commerce where it actually becomes a viable business model.
When we talk about sustainability, I think there are different layers, but in general, what I was referring to just now is there are trends and there are fads. Trends are usually more long-term evergreen. So as an example for supplement business, it's evergreen business. It has been around for, like decades earlier. It will continue to be around for decades later on. So in this context, as an example of what I took from Jeff Bezos, he said that when he was building Amazon, he looks for things that don't change. So essentially, it's evergreen. And to me, it is something similar when I go into this space. I try to find something that is not transient. It's not like faddish, very hot this period of time, and then maybe change later on. And that will help me to in a sense like eliminate one of the variables, because when we go into a business, there are many variables. We try to minimize the variables, and we can then dedicate more effort, more attention to the other areas so that we can go deeper, we can iterate more and stuff like that. Fetish things would be things like, the...
Your fidget spinners.
Yeah, exactly. Fidget spinners and stuff like that. So we know that things like that, it won't last. That being said, like if we take a different perspective to it, fidget spinners or people who go into like fidget spinners and stuff, they know that it cannot last. Then it is about structuring the business model to be able to continue to kind of catch the next fad. And
wave riding, basically.
Yeah, wave riding. So if they are able to then build their model to continue to do that repeatedly, then it might be a sustainable business model. But from my perspective, that is riskier and that is a lot more effort compared to if we know that there is a sustainable demand. So just now you mentioned like fast fashion. It's also something that I will never touch because fast fashion, again, you have to be very, very fast in terms of catching. So there are a lot more unknown. So not only do you have to be good in your marketing, do you have to be good in your operations and all these things, but an added variable is you need to be able to identify, the fashion that's coming up. You need to be able to then be able to produce that. And just imagine like the operational things that needs to happen. Like if you identify one new trend, the back end of all the people have to be able to produce this new trend or new cutting or new dress and stuff like that. And compared to if, as an example, like supplement is supplement. And of course, we need to invest in the R&D of the formulation and stuff. But basically, once it's done, then it is to a certain extent like more stable. So similar to a lot of others like T-shirts. There will be some variables, but essentially like good t-shirts are good t-shirts, right? So it is not the fast fashion type.
It's interesting you say that because in essence is reduce your variables so that you can manage predictability. And within predictability, you can build models of scale to reduce your risk. Talk to me about reducing risk when it comes to advertising. A lot of people, their lifeblood is if I don't spend X amount on Facebook ads, the sales don't come in.
Right.
So how is it that you control that variable of saying, okay, yes, we have our spend, we have that calculated inside of our cash flow, inside of our P&Ls, but whether we spend less or more, we still have predictable revenue. We still have our MRR, monthly recurring revenue, or ARR, whatever it may be. Talk to me about how does somebody position themselves so that their only lifeblood, aka Facebook ads or Instagram ads or YouTube ads, if that thing doesn't pan out that month, that it doesn't affect the bottom line tremendously?
Excellent question. So I think that as we build the business, again, we have to think about growth and sustainability. I think for growth, definitely we want to go to the platforms or the channels where it can afford us good, like CAC, and so it's easy to get customers at a good price, a good cost. At the same time, we want to be able to then transition that customer to be recurring. Again, supplement business, very similar to, like phone companies or other telecom companies and Netflix and all these things. There is a recurring component if we do it well. So having that recurring component helps us to, if we do it well, help us to build stronger base over time. So as we grow and a portion of the new customers come in, they will become subscribers. They will build our base over time, which is why it also has helped us to continue to grow. So we continue to push to get new customers. At the same time, a portion of them will become our so-called baseline. And as our baseline continue to grow, and we continue to acquire new customers at a better rate, then the effect will be compounding. On the front, we don't want to rely too much on just one channel, obviously. So I think that a lot of marketers tend to get addicted with one particular channel. And either they see themselves like, oh, I'm a Facebook marketer. But if we take a step back and see ourselves as a business owner, Facebook marketing is just one channel, one traffic channel. And so we have to see, we may get a lot of traffic from here. We may get a lot of customers at a good price from here. But we should always diversify a little bit. So we expand our traffic channels. We try to expand our distribution channels as well, so that we are not so reliant only on the traffic. So if we open up on maybe, for example, Amazon we started with Shopify, but then we are now on Amazon as well. Then we are expanding to other channels as well. If we are in retail eventually, then to a certain extent, those build additional distribution channels where new customers will be able to see us.
And new layers of protection.
Yeah. The more we are able to do this, the more the base is safe to a certain extent. And of course, then there is also like email marketing and all these things. So when customers come in, we want to be able to communicate with them. And all these things add up over time to build a stronger base. So I think if we see like from a more holistic business standpoint, a lot of people tend to over focus on one area, whether it's the marketing side, front end only, or they just focus on operations, or maybe they are really, really good in, like subscribers and all these things, but they don't market enough. What I try to do is to do all the parts at a decently enough, good enough standards, and then we will continue to improve front end side, operation side, subscription side, and we circle basically continue on to improve each.
So integrate these different variables, but then iterate upon them. Not master one and neglect every other variable that may exist. Let me ask you about what these variables are. So if you were to evaluate what these variables are, let's say these pillars for a sustainable e-commerce business, one of them being email marketing, right? What are the other variables that you consider non-negotiables in order to build a strong e-commerce business? Non-negotiables. There's a lot of variable ones for some people. Selling on Snapchat is not ideal because their product is for 70-year-olds or 60-year-olds. So for them, Facebook may be better, right? So that variable that's too intricate. But what are non-negotiable variables, in your opinion, for a sustainable e-commerce business?
Traditional good business principles. So we must have a very good way to reach new customers at a good cost. So whether it is social media, whether it is like from Google, traditional like AdWords and stuff like that, or even through retail, through like doing banners or doing newspaper ads. Essentially, we have to have sustainable, scalable way to get new customers in at a good cost. And then the second part of it is to be able to grow the AOV and the LTV of the customers. So when new customers come in, we spend quite a bit of money to acquire them. We want to be able to get them to spend a certain amount with us. At the same time, then we have to work on how do we get them to repeat buying again from us. So frequency of return to purchase and stick with us for a longer period of time. And then, of course, other than that, the next thing is about making sure that the promised product, or rather, this is not like the afterwards, but essentially it is a component of everything. Make sure that the product is something that can deliver what is promised so that then they continue to stay with you. The next important part of it is obviously the customer service. I think that a lot of time, a lot of newer D2C e-commerce business, a lot of people came from the internet marketing side, and they tend to rely a lot more on emphasize a lot more on the marketing side, but they don't pay enough attention to the marketing, rather the operations and the customer service. So there'll be like a lot of complaints and all these things, but customer service in a traditional business essentially is something that's very important. If we take a look at Jeff Bezos, again, he repeatedly said that, the focus is
Customer-centric.
Customer-centric. Of course, like customer-centric is the goal. It doesn't mean that every aspect of the business is like customer-centric. For example, like buyers from Amazon tend to get pretty decent, good service, but sellers in Amazon sometimes face a lot of challenges and stuff. So customer-centric may not be as implemented as well yet in that area, but basically the goal is to be able to do customer service good enough for the ecosystem. So I think customer service is definitely an important part of it. Then, about the recurring side, the LTV, again, to be able to not only get them to become a customer and become a repeat buyer, but to grow with them. So if they've been with us for over a period of time, can we anticipate what they need next? Then such as like offering new products for them. So over time, we will be able to know with like the customer's journey, and anticipate what the customer will want next. And if it is relevant to our brand, then we will try to offer a new product for them.
Talk to me about AOV. What are some practical strategies to increase your average order value inside that purchase? So different people use different tactics. What have you guys found to be some practical tactics that are replicatable and useful?
For us in the supplement business, there are a few in a sense like go-to tactics. But in general, the way I approach business is we rely lesser, or we emphasize less on tactics. We try to do the strategy right, the macro things right, so that then even if the tactic don't work anymore, the strategy will still work. But that being said, as an example for increasing AOV is like when people buy something, if we offer them more of the same, like
Bundling.
bundle. So in health supplement, usually if they are interested to buy one bottle, if we offer them 3 bottles at a better rate, or even like 6 bottles at a better rate, that is one of the common tactics. At the same time, we will also do a different type of upsells where they are interested to buy one bottle of a particular product with the intention that this product will help them for certain benefits, certain symptoms and stuff like that. The upsell will be something that will help them to get the benefit faster, easier, things like that. So it's a complementary product. So yeah, essentially it's the same like bundling, but the bundling will be, is it the same, more of the same, or is it like complementary? Yeah, so there are variations of this that we do for the AOV.
Talk to me about calculation of COGS, because once you're scaling, right, managing your cash flow and understanding your cost of goods sold and your click-through rate and how much your CPA is, or what your ROAS is inside of your business is extremely important. Talk to me about calculating cost of goods sold. And when you're introducing a new product line, you are dealing with manufacturers, you are dealing with people that either sell similar supplements or are competing with supplements that manufacturers will say, well, we're not going to give you a discount on this thing. And sometimes, I don't know if it's happened to you where you say, I can't take this product on because it's too expensive versus the margins that we can actually make on this product. Talk to me about calculating COGS. Talk to me about how to set healthy COGS to ensure profitability, not just nice numbers on the dashboard.
All right. It's an excellent question, but it's a huge chunk. And I think that different businesses tend to have a bit of a different, they calculate margins differently. But for us, right from the start, we try to aim for healthy margins. So going back to the idea of calculating costs, so we definitely want to set aside not only in terms of the product costs, but also including like the marketing costs. Then we also add in things like shipping costs, shipping, fulfillment, and stuff like that. So we try for ourselves, we try to aim for about like 60% gross margin. That is already inclusive of product costs, marketing costs, shipping and handling. Then we know that there will be, in a sense, like good enough
room for error.
Correct.
Yes.
On top of that, then there are still a lot of other unseen costs, such as like the transactions costs of payment processes,
which can be huge.
Yeah, which
As
is
you're doing 100 million, 2.9%.
Yeah, so
it's heavy.
And in a lot of cases, it's actually much higher than 2.9 because we are based in Singapore. We are selling to overseas, so
you have an extra transaction fee, and if you're running MR and you're using other payment processors, gets even higher, more expensive.
So we have to take all those into account, and we try to aim at a healthy, good percentage. Yeah. So basically, it is at the start. Obviously, we won't have all these numbers yet. So when we started, we have an idea of, okay, we should try to aim for certain things. But in general, over time, we always will get the data and then iterate from there. Initially, we spend a lot more on marketing. Over time, from the data, we see that, okay, we have to limit marketing spend to at a certain percentage. And then because of that, so there's a saying that I really like, which is limitation creates, resourcefulness. So because we set a limit in terms of how much we are willing to spend,
You have to get creative.
yeah. So we have to get creative, and we have to find better ways to market. We have to find more effective ways to communicate the messaging to the customers and stuff.
Talk to me about this creativity process. You talk about reaching out to customers. What have you found? Ever since the iOS update, I see a lot of people, excuse my French or my English, bitching. See a lot of people bitching and complaining, saying, "Oh, the new iOS update screwed up Facebook. It's impossible to run Facebook ads anymore." What have you found to be the best platforms to advertise on since then? Is it still Facebook? Is it? What is your opinion here?
It's an excellent question, and also link back to what I meant just now. Like, if we rely too much on just one source, then it might be great for now, but it might become a liability later on. But it was similar to a lot of other people at that time. We were growing a lot from Facebook marketing. When iOS happened, we were affected as well. That being said, because we have certain fundamentals previously, it affected us, but we were still able to continue to grow. Just that it definitely affected the rate of growth. But because we had other fundamentals that I mentioned, like we had decent enough like email marketing, we have decent enough like recurring and other channels that we are advertising on as well. But I think for now, currently, Facebook is still, to us, the best platform. There are, of course, other channels like, TikTok and all these things. But since then, I think Facebook have also evolved, have also kind of like learned and improved the algorithm to be able to improve results for advertisers. So definitely during that time, I think that a lot of marketers suffered. We were equally impacted, maybe a little less so compared to others because of
Dropshippers got punched in the mouth because they didn't have this email marketing set in place. They didn't have the MRR set in place. They didn't have this customer base to go back and increase the LTV.
Yeah. From a lot of our D2C friends, they were also affected as well. But I guess partly, maybe also partly because we were growing at a certain pace and we were hitting a certain volume, then it may be that we were a little bit more insulated compared to that. But I think that a lot of the other pillars definitely help us to go through and relearn. So with this issue, how do we improve? Like, we change our messaging, we change the way we advertise a little bit, and of course, then we try to expand more to the others. I think that during that time, a lot of advertisers, a lot of the Facebook gurus in the space immediately jumped to also like become TikTok gurus and stuff. We were also pushing and experimenting a lot more on TikTok, and of course other channels as well, like Google and stuff. So I think that if we have the perspective of this is a sustainable long-term business, and we know one channel is affected, but the market is still there. It's about figuring out how do we continue to go to the market. But if we see ourselves as Facebook marketers and Facebook is whacked, by the iOS, then, people tend to get lost because, I'm a Facebook marketer, then Facebook is now no longer effective. What do I do? But if we see like the market is still there, it's just a matter of trying to find a different way to go to the market. Then we will find solutions to reach them.
You mentioned something interesting. You said one of the ways to increase COGS is to cross-sell different products, is to find a complementary product. Let's say if you're selling a razor, you'll sell them shaving cream. Or if you're selling a toothbrush, you're going to sell them toothpaste. It's a complementary product to something that they already have. But before that, before you have a full product line, there's testing that comes into place. Talk to me about testing products before you go out and spend $200,000 on inventory. Talk to me about how do you guys test and how do you ensure that the test is guaranteeing that this product is a viable option and a viable product to sell. Because a lot of people are like, they have this fantasy of, oh, I came up with a dream. I had a dream of this perfect product. Let me go spend money manufacturing, branding it. And then they get the product and it doesn't sell. It doesn't work. Talk to me about testing.
Once you have a product that is working, the next few that you are creating to add on becomes easier. As a start, when you are creating the first product or the star product or the product that will, in a sense, like work and help you to scale, I think that process likely is a little bit harder. But the way we did it last time was, again, because we studied the market and we set certain criteria. We try to go for something that's evergreen. We try to go with market that's big enough. There are markets where it looks cool, it looks very, hot and all these things, but the market size itself is not as big. So as an example, for supplement, it is a multi-billion-dollar market. So we know that it's big enough. By having all these criteria, then it makes it easy for us to try to create a product there. And then we can create multiple of this and we try. And essentially, it's similar to like when we do creative testing, right? We create a few different variables of ads, and then we try to see which one works. So product testing is, to a certain extent, pretty similar. We narrow down as much as possible the space or the market that we are going to go, the audience that we are going to go for. And then we try to create products for them. And we create a few and we see how it can work. Another layer to that is if we create a product, once the product is marketed to the audience and it didn't work, it doesn't mean that or not necessarily that the product is actually not going to be selling well. It is also then another layer is to test the messaging. Maybe the product can be messages slightly differently to slightly a different audience with a different tweak, then it can actually work. So yeah, it basically is an iteration process. But again, we are not iterating from zero, or we are not like throwing everything, like to the wall and see what sticks. We already have a pretty good idea that there is a demand, there is a market, and it's just a few of these things, which one will work. So it narrows down a lot about the variabilities again.
The variables. So talk to me about the variables in an ad. So people think, oh, well, I'm just going to go on the business manager, select interest, which now that we know broad interest potentially being one of the best formats. What are the variables that you look for in an ad? So yes, of course, before we even get into the website, right? And we're going to cover that in just a second. I just want to talk about the ad ecosystem. What are the variables that you guys consider in the ad ecosystem? You mentioned messaging, which translates to copy. What are these variables that you guys play around with to find that perfect set of ingredients?
There are several, but I think few most important for us, I think, is obviously is the image creativity, whether it immediately, the not only capture attention, but it resonates with the customers, with the audience. Second, obviously, is the headline. Third is the lead-in. So, of course, after that, you can have the body copy to kind of explain why this is suitable for them and stuff, the call to action and all these things. But in social media, it's all about, the thumb stopping. Then, those three key elements would be the most important. The image, does the image play out? Like the image, headline, and the lead-in, do they tell a strong enough, compelling enough story to get people to and it cannot be that it is just thumb stopping for the sake of, because if it doesn't explain the product, then you'll get a lot of, maybe engagement, but then the actual sale will not be there. So it has to still be relevant enough, communicate what the product is enough to the audience, but it has to be creative enough to get their attention. So these are the three key things. Obviously, then we focus on the different types of hooks that we can use to create. And for us, over time, we have also accumulated and built up like several different proven hooks that we have collected, we have developed over time. So when we test new creatives, new products and all these things, we will go to those few proven
You'll
ones.
find those proven sequences.
Yeah.
But you have to test in order to get them. Most people are like, well, I'm going to test this creative with one single header, and it doesn't work. And then they'll go back to testing other products without testing the variables, simply because they haven't done the market research or the necessary homework to have conviction on that product to actually spend money testing it out.
Correct. So I think the word that you mentioned, conviction, is the key. I think, or rather, the missing ingredient that a lot of people tend to not have because they didn't do enough market research. But if you have at least good enough market research to know, confident enough that the market is there, the demand is there, then you know that it is just about tweaking the messaging or tweaking certain areas to make it work. But when you don't have an idea, then there are so many different variables of which one is wrong, right? So is it the marketing, is it the product, or is it the way I advertise, or is it the platform? Too many variables with too many options, and then people, especially newbies, tend to get lost because they don't know. One of the things that I tell my team is that if we do enough market research and we know with high confidence, then in those cases, it's about like biting down and taking the big swings, and not then like give up and then let's try to change the product and all these things. So I think getting to that conviction level and then persisting. So I think like persisting on high confidence probability is very important.
Talk to me about, have you read the book, Breakthrough Advertising?
Yes.
So the author there, he talks about this idea of if your headline is not written with precision to convey the entire message, your entire copy may as well be written in Greek because it makes no difference, no difference whatsoever. We talked about inside of the framework of the ad. Let's move over to the website and what the lander experience should actually look like to increase conversion. Just as the ecosystem of the ad is important, talking about the importance of the ecosystem of the landing page to increase conversions and to increase the potential for high CTAs.
It applies generally to a lot of, I guess, e-commerce or D2C products. So the headline have to be something that is relevant immediately, promising certain type of benefits for them. But I think what tends to be missing for a lot of companies or brands is to explain a few key criteria. One is why they are different, whether different from, we can create many different ways to differentiate. So an example would be like difference in terms of the product itself, difference in terms of the sourcing method, difference in terms of the origin of the place. So as an example, some brands, they have very strong pride in terms of saying that, made in USA. Or some, an example would be like, some beers would say that they are made in Germany. So there is
Heineken.
there's an illusion of like it is cleaner, or it is like, more premium because it's imported beer. So there are many different ways to create differentiation. I think that a lot of times brands tend to not put in enough effort to explain the differentiation. But if they have enough differentiation, then there's another element that I think is important is why now? So you have to explain why you have to buy it now, why this is relevant for you now compared to, like, they may be interested already, they may be convinced that, okay, this is different enough and all these things, but, maybe I will wait for another month. Maybe my pay is not here yet. Maybe next week, man, they will forget, obviously. So why you have to buy it right now? There's another element.
The urgency factor.
Yeah, the urgency. So urgency and scarcity, got to include that. Then the other element is to be able to explain to them, like, essentially when people buy products, they want to solve something, or they want to get a certain benefit of it. So there's two main driving force, pain and pleasure. Or you need to be able to kind of like explain these two to them in a more tangible way. So an example would be like, if you get this, what will it solve for you? Whether the pain will go away, or whether it's like, if you get an iPhone, whether, it will help you to, be more efficient and all these things, to kind of like justify to them why they should buy this thing. And there's another element to that is to let them see that there is an ease of use, which is, if I buy this, it is not going to be a hassle.
It has to be friction reduced. You can't be out here like, 90 steps to make sure you take your supplement.
Yeah. Easy to use, easy to get, and they will get the results. So those key elements, we have to kind of like put them together in a coherent, good flow. Of course, then the actual offer itself. I think that people tend to miss out one or two of those things, so that then the conversion may not be as good.
I agree. Talk to me about pricing. How do you guys split test pricing to find that sweet spot that maximizes conversion?
It's an excellent question, but I think that for us, so to us, it is not so much only about maximizing conversion. In fact, this is something that I just recently reminded my team as well. So if we see ourselves as a long-term business, we are building a long-term brand, do we want to only focus on optimizing conversion, or do we want to focus on building long-term value? A simple analogy would be like Apple versus Samsung, right? Apple, in terms of market share, they are not the biggest, but they have the biggest margins. They have the biggest value in the market. Samsung, they have a bigger pie of the market share, or like Android phones, for example. They have much bigger, but in terms of their profit margin and all these things, they are not comparable compared to Apple. So from a business standpoint, it is a strategic business decision whether you want to go with optimizing conversion right from the start. And that may mean, like lowering costs, lowering price and all these things to get the highest conversion possible. And that will give you bigger volume. Or maybe you would prefer a price that may be a little bit premium, may not be optimizing conversion from the start, but over time, it actually builds up bigger value in terms of customers, in terms of the quality of customers as well. Because traditionally, of course, this depends on different business and different models, but traditionally, customers who pay lower tend to be a certain range, and they tend to be more comfortable in paying that kind of like low prices over time. You may have a huge, volume of these customers, but how you handle them, how you cater to them, and all these things will be different compared to customers who are willing to pay maybe a bit mid or premium. And over time, if we project to 5-10 years later, which of these will give you better value?
Yes.
Over time.
It all kind of depends on if you're building this e-commerce business for cash flow, or if you're building it for an exit, or if you're building it for a valuation.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that different models will then dictate how you do it differently.
Talk to me about some secret sauce. I want to hear from you one or two things that you don't hear mainstream on a YouTube channel, or you don't hear mainstream even on these e-commerce guru courses, that you think give a competitive edge in the e-commerce space. You have like 90 million running through your head. You're like, okay, let me pick one file. Okay, here.
It is an interesting question, because I think this is something that I just recently had a chat with a friend as well, when we were talking about like competitive advantage and like building a so-called moat. I think that a lot of people tend to think that the secret sauce or the competitive advantage is like that one or two thing. But usually that is just the facade, and sustainable competitive advantage comes from multiple things put together well enough. So again, the analogy would be like in the context of Apple, what is their competitive advantage? Some people will say, their ecosystem. But to a certain extent, like Android or like Google have their own ecosystem as well. So is it like their premium design? But others also have pretty good design. And in fact, like whenever they come up with a new iPhone or new whatever device, China will immediately copy and offer like a cheaper version and all these things. Practically almost the same. But they still have, so then people will point like brand. Then, others have also built up their brand along the way, like Samsung and all these things. And their brand is also pretty premium, like Samsung have high-end products as well. So it's actually all of these things together makes the brand something that is more premium. So the competitive advantage is more sustainable. So for us, we started with marketing. I think that because of our background as marketers, we did pretty decently in terms of how we do marketing, and we did okay. At the same time, I saw a lot of people tend to get stuck in just doing the marketing, but they didn't build the rest of the business well. So we ensured that we built good enough operations, we built good enough like customer service. Then, of course, the finance side, having someone to oversee finance properly so that cash flow is good. And each of these then helps to make the whole system more efficient. And because each of these are done well, then at the front, we can offer more things. Because each of the efficiency helps to cut certain costs. Marketing side, we are able to be a little bit more aggressive, for example. While others who are just focusing on marketing, then they are limited because their backend may not be as good and stuff like that. So their marketing have to only be able to market at a certain level. But because our backend is more efficient, we have better savings in certain other areas. Then in the marketing side, we are a little bit more aggressive. So all of this actually adds on, and over time, competitive advantage will also evolve. So I think people tend to see business as something that is in a bit of static, like I achieved this, then this is like, okay, great, this is done, and then move on. Especially like internet marketers, they have been conditioned or bought into the idea of like set it, forget it.
Short-term vision is like one time and done.
Yeah. So, but sustainable business, they are always evolving. Like we see, to me, as a business owner, if I am dreaming a big vision, I want to model after the big brands. So like Amazon, Apple, Meta, and all these things. We take a look at what they have done. Over 10 years, they are so different from like where Apple now compared to 10 years ago. They are so different. Yeah. And they continue to evolve. So if I am aiming to build something, even like a small percentage of what they're doing, then if I learn what they have done, then I will get a chance. I will get a shot in being able to kind of build at least a little percentage of what they do. But if I model after brands that are a bit more static, then very likely that our result will also be static. Yeah,
that makes sense. It's this idea of a perfect recipe is a combination of ingredients. Sometimes, it's simple ingredients, but you still have to precisely and effectively put them together. Let me ask you about Amazon, because you said we started with Shopify, then we moved to Amazon. There's all these videos on TikTok and these ads on Facebook talking about, hey, the new place is Amazon FBA. You got to be, Shopify is dead. Talk to me about Amazon FBA. Is it a viable option? Is it the best alternative to start with? You mentioned this idea of, Amazon is good, but it's good for the customer, better than it is for the seller. And for multiple reasons, whether it's your payout times, whether it's the margins that you have to cut out to the big boss to make sure that you can operate on their platform, the fact that you don't own the customer and their information. If you're just starting off and e-commerce is of interest to you, or you're at the 0 to 1 phase, sub $1 million a year revenue, what is the best approach? What is the best platforms to be utilizing as your ecosystem to sell your products? Is it Amazon? Is it Shopify? What do you think? Or is it something else? Yeah.
So from my perspective, actually, again, whether it's Shopify, whether it's Amazon, I see those as platforms. First, I would focus on, is there a market? Is there a big enough market? That being said, once I figure out and have high confidence that, okay, there's a market for this and it's big enough market and all, and I'm able to create a differentiation, then I think FBA or Amazon is actually a pretty good place to start, because obviously it already has a huge platform and a huge customer base. And these customers are not just some other random, like people are on the internet, but they are buyers. So definitely it is a good place to start. At the same time, every platform has pros and cons. The drawbacks, obviously, as you mentioned, that you don't get, customers' data. And to a certain extent, there are a lot of limitations as well in FBA. We started with Shopify because, well, we didn't really consider Amazon at the start because we wanted to build our own brand and we wanted to learn the whole process. But eventually, we also get to go to Amazon, and Amazon is actually one of the very fast growing channel for us. But going back to the idea as a start, if I go to Amazon, very likely I will have at the start bigger investment or the requirement of bigger investment because I need to send, the enough inventory for them to kind of like take notice, and the logistics to deal with them sometimes also not as great. So I think in a sense, like if we see that as a marketplace, it is great because it has got advantages where a lot of buyers are already there. We can do market research on it as well. But for long term, personally, for me, I find that it is still very important to maybe start there, but extend your brand outside of that ecosystem. When we started in Shopify, we can start very, very small. We don't have to have a certain requirements of, like certain amount of products. And a lot of the components are more in our control in terms of fulfillment and stuff like that. In FBA, you basically are, a lot of things are already done, but to a certain extent, you are stuck with their processes. And of course, then you pay a much higher fee. In outside, you have a level of control. So it depends on how people want to approach it. I think that a lot of people started with FBA and have done well as well. So I wouldn't say that personally for me, if I'm restarting, I would start with Amazon, but I wouldn't say not to as well. I think I'm neutral with that.
It kind of depends on what you want, right?
Yeah.
Because there's obviously products that there's more competition on FBA as opposed to you just running paid traffic, or once again, you said order quantity, things of this nature. I agree as well. Cash flow, because you don't get paid out for X amount of days, so you need to have cash flow.
So cash flow, another consideration. Obviously, they will wait for a period of time before they do the payout. But also in terms of the marketing side, like do you market on Amazon itself? And their marketing is not as robust to a certain extent. There is like the cost of advertising on Amazon might be higher or might be a bit more challenging compared to if you advertise on Facebook. But if you advertise on Facebook to drive to Amazon, then the cost might be compounded because there is still Amazon costs. But if you do Facebook to Shopify, if you are starting out with the basic Shopify platform, the cost is much lower. So all these additional considerations. So I'm neutral. I think there is a good platform. I think people have done well in that. So in the long term, I'm not sure yet like where Amazon as a business is heading. It makes sense for them to try to make it even easier for sellers to perform well in their platform. At the same time, we do see that they also have created, their own Amazon brands.
Their own essentials, yeah.
Yeah. And,
that's kind of fun.
Yeah. So again, like being too dependent on one platform might become dangerous. But if you build a brand outside and this is just one channel, then I think that in the long term, you are safer.
You need to perceive where you can get screwed and mitigate those things ahead of time so that if that happens to be the case, you have positioned yourself to continue executing well. Let's talk a little bit about teams, because you run a lean and mean team. You guys did over $100 million last year. This year, you're projecting 200, but your team is not massive. You have a team of sub 40 people, which is fucking mind boggling to me. So the return per team member is astronomical, one of the highest I've ever seen. Talk to me about team culture inside your organization. Talk to me about your philosophy of running a lean team, because there's always this glorious persona of, I have 3,000 employees, look at me, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all 3,000 are effective or that they're actually doing what they're supposed to do. You're running a 9-figure a year business, but with a very small, slim, but very intense team. Talk to me about the philosophy and the mindset there.
Overall, I think the simplified version is the quote that Steve Jobs said. I think like a small group of A+ players can run some circles against, like B and C players. Of course, then there is a limit to how much you can do with a limited number of people. So we still have to kind of like expand the team. That being said, the idea is, or rather, taking a step, I think a lot of people tend to get caught up with the not as important, non-essentials, and then they try to kind of like use that as a way. So they're focusing on the wrong metrics. They use that example of like how many people in my team and all these things as a badge of honor to say, like something that they are shouting out. Are those really the critical parts of the growth of a business? I think, again, taking the overview of what are the business fundamentals and principles. Team definitely is important, but it is a lot more about the levers in a business, and the bigger levers in a business tend to be like whether the systems and processes are dialed in. When we were building the team, I focused a lot more on people who align with the vision, align with the values of what we're trying to achieve. Again, that makes it, to a certain extent, harder to find the right people as well. But I think that when people are aligned vision and value-wise, then the technical skills makes it, or the technical skills are easier to learn. If people are hungry, if people are playing the long game. But there are a lot of people who have the technical skills, but they have very short-term mindset. So then they tend to not stay for very long and stuff. So we try to build the team from at the start from people who are able to see, okay, this is the vision, this is what we're trying to achieve. So we got from like 0 to 100 over mil in a few years. But to us, this is still just like the starting point. And the leaders in our team understand that.
They know it.
Yeah. And they see that, we are going for something that is, like bigger and stuff. But if people who can't see that, and they will get easily distracted. We will achieve a certain milestone, and then they will start to get distracted with a lot of other things. So maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that, and stuff like that. While the current business itself, there are still a lot of gaps, a lot of pillars that we can continue to kind of build. The infrastructure of 7-figure or 8-figure or 9-figure business compared to even bigger businesses are quite different. And we need to continue to not only scale what we have, but start to build the next infrastructure to be able to support our scale to the next level. And if the team can't even see that level, then it is very easy for them to either stagnant, or they get distracted by other things. So I think that's one of the key for us. Doesn't mean that the team in our, or rather the people in our team are all super high level players. I think the approach that we have is like in a sports team. Sometimes they will be the superstars, but if the superstars don't play well with each other, then the team will not be a championship team. But for us, our approach is let's put the right players together with the right mindset, and then we can iterate and learn the technical skills along the way. But because they are all, or rather at least the seniors and the leaders, long-term thinkers, then it is much easier to iterate along the way and learn the skills that are necessary. And with that mindset, then it is much easier for us to continue to improve. So the idea of making continuous improvement is an important part of our team. Then again, back to what I was saying just now, we focus on each part of the pillars of the business, like marketing. Okay, we want to do well at this kind of standard. Operations, we want to do well at this kind of standard. Customer service, etc., etc. With that, we have been able to, with that mindset, we've been able to continue to kind of like grow with the people. And a lot of the people who started with us at the start of this e-commerce journey have become the leaders in the business now, have been like leading and pushing the new areas that we want to kind of like open up and building the new infrastructure. The idea is not so much that we want to not grow big. I think the idea is more about we want to make sure that we don't have too much bloat. And I think the tendencies are, especially in the previous, like 5-10 years of easy money, especially in the tech world, and also then it relates to the, like the VC, the PE funds and all these things pumping a lot of money to not only the tech, but also the e-commerce space, the D2C space. A lot of companies or other funds are investing in this. Then the metrics become a little bit more of trying to justify the valuation. And one of the ways to do that is we hire a lot more people, and stuff. Are the people actually really producing what they're supposed to be? Are they really unlocking new things? And because we are bootstrapped, we are not funded. I think that also kind of like shield us from
unnecessary spend or unnecessary bloat.
Yeah. And of course, like the other part as well is when we first started, cash flow is very, very tight as well, because we were bootstrapped, so we were not funded. So we market, we get a certain amount in terms of returns. At the same time, when we want to start to scale, then there is a bigger investment in terms of product stock to be able to continue the scaling. So we have to buy a bigger amount of stock. I think that has helped us with our financial discipline as well. But yeah, essentially the idea is more efficient and effective with the team.
Talk to me a little bit. You just mentioned something intricate to me. It's important. And a lot of people, this is the first time somebody's mentioned it on a Money Talks. Talk about financial discipline. You're making a lot of money. How do you instill financial discipline as one of the, and then I want to talk real quickly. I know you have your vision, but I want to talk about your values. Financial discipline clearly being one of the values inside your organization. Talk to me about financial discipline, the importance of it in organizations, as well as some of the values, non-negotiable values inside of your company.
Financial discipline, ensure that we are getting good returns. That doesn't mean that we we scream and like always be very like thrifty on things. When it comes to important areas such as like creative marketing, testing, we are willing to obviously be a bit more aggressive and do that. But we have to always put in certain metrics in terms of how much are we willing to spend to test this thing, and what is the expected return. Whatever that we do our best to build a certain level of expectation. If we are spending this amount of money, what is the expected return of these things? It doesn't mean that every time you will get it, but then
you go into that play with a plan.
Exactly. So I think that a lot of times people tend to go and then let's see how, without a clear plan. But if we have a clear plan, then we go in, even if we don't get it, then what did we learn from it? All right. If our expectation is this, but we are getting this, then do we actually make a mistake in terms of our projection, or did we make a mistake in terms of execution? And then we tweak
plan, execution, iteration.
Yes. So we try to implement that in every aspect of the business, including like operation, including like stock, when we're buying stock. So for us, I think with this mindset, it helps already with a lot of the financial prudence or financial discipline. Again, the idea is we want to be able to sustain a good amount of or healthy amount of margin, so that we will be able to use this amount to continue to invest in the next infrastructure. To a certain extent, it also helps with myself being the sole founder, so that I don't have to negotiate too much or like to convince partners and stuff like that. But as my background as a consultant before and all these things, I've seen a lot of businesses who play the too much of the try to grow at all costs and stuff like that, and it's not sustainable. But for us, because the idea is to build a sustainable brand, so right from the start, we try to aim for a decent, healthy amount of profit, and that initially, because we are bootstrapped, necessitates for us to maintain a certain level of financial discipline. And as we grow, we continue to try to maintain that. Of course, then as we grow, we have a bit more capital, and we can set aside certain capital for certain investment. Like, okay, we are going to set aside this amount to build the next infrastructure. And we can do that knowing that, okay, this is an investment, but also still have an idea, this investment, what is the expected returns? And by when will we expect this return? So I think that discipline is important.
Plan, execution, iteration. I love it. Two more questions.
Sure.
One is the values. You talk about the vision of the company. People come in, the vision is instilled, the mission is instilled. But we talk about the values. What are some non-negotiable values inside your organization? Non-negotiable.
We want people who are builders. We want people who are long-term thinkers. In our hiring process, we actually state that very upfront. Of course, as we filter through, sometimes people say that they are long-term thinkers, but when we start
they're
working with them,
long-term talkers.
Yeah. Then at the end, we found out that they are not. Yeah. So talk is easy, but focus is we want long-term thinkers, because we believe that it's a game of iteration. It's a game of compounding. So if we see to us to build a long-term brand, the more we compound the improvements in all the different pillars, the bigger the results can be. But if people come in with very short-term thinkers and stuff like that. Then the way they execute tend to also be very tactical. They might be really good in terms of the technical side of things, but tend to be tactical in nature, and it might actually hurt in the mid to long term.
Tactical, not strategic.
Yeah. So long-term thinkers, people who believes in like building something bigger, people who are team players. One of the things that again, the analogy is we want to build a high-performing team like a sports team. They have to be able to be great in their area of responsibility. At the same time, being able to collaborate and work well with other team members. So if they are superstars but they are prima donnas, they can't work with the other people, or they have very aggressive personality and stuff like that, then they tend to not last long with us, because we want to build a culture where people are happy working with each other. At the same time, we build together. So it's an idealistic goal. I think human beings are the most complex asset of a business, but they are also the biggest asset. So we try to take our time to find the right people to join the team. And so far, the pros and cons is I feel that we could have grown even faster if we have some of the technical brilliance of certain people or whatever things, but yet they may not be the right people for our team, because if they came in, they might then like poison the rest of the team. But the other side as well is we have experienced good growth. At the same time, it is still sustainable, and we try to continue to build that. So if we see it in the context of this, my goal is 5 years, 5 years and exit and stuff, then trying to build this team this way might have not been the most optimal. But if we are thinking of long-term, building a really big enough brand, I think that what we have done is, so far, has been working well with us. It's been doing well, and I believe that as we continue to build that, it only will add strength to the team. When everyone, to a certain extent, like the analogy would be like in the dragon boat, right? Everyone have to row the same direction at the same pace. If one of it, like they superstar, they row faster and all this, but it creates the wrong rhythm,
imbalance.
Yeah, and then it spoils the whole thing. So we try to build an environment where everyone can work together cohesively. We have some brilliant people in the team. At the same time, it doesn't mean that everyone have to be superstars. We have to know what we are good in. At the same time, be able to leverage and work with each other. So I think that's the. I would say that is the common denominator that we have in the team. So that is the goal for our culture. But we're still growing. It is a learning process as well for us. So we are still improving on. What I shared so far is kind of like an overview. At the same time, in a practical sense, when we are hiring and we are evaluating team members and all these things, there are nuances to that. So we are still learning as well. We are still figuring out. And we try to do our best to learn from, some of the biggest brands in the world. Whether it's, again, like Steve Jobs or Jeff Bezos and like Elon Musk. Elon Musk obviously is a bit of the anomaly compared to the rest. He's a lot more aggressive and a lot more like vocal in the what he does and all these things. At the same time, you can't deny that he has brilliant results as well. So I try to learn from all these people, like why certain model work better, why certain model achieve certain results, and we try to map it out to what is relevant for us.
That's the entire premise of Money Talks, is sitting with people that cook differently and then figuring out what ingredients are good for your own recipes, for your own restaurant, for your own success. Last question. You said you were a student of philosophy. Now that's broad. I want to hear from you philosophically, the number one principle in your time as an entrepreneur that has radically changed your life and that you still take away every single day. It's in the front of your head as a philosophical concept or as a truth that you live by, and how you can impart that truth or that knowledge to the people listening.
It is what I often share with our team as well. We get a percentage of the value that we create to the world. So I think that a lot of people tend to pursue, like, I want, like increment, I want to get better, more money, better results, etc., etc. But they tend to be overly self-centric. But the universe, if we study, tend to be the value that we get is actually a percentage of the value that we create. So if we focus on creating bigger value to the market, creating like bigger impact and all these things, it will naturally come back to you. So the practical example will be, if we are able to reach out to more people, impact more people's lives, more customers are happy with our product, and we have great product where people then stay with us for a longer period of time. All these things will get back to us. And of course, it's a percentage. It's not like I produce 100%, I expect 100%. Because other, whether businesses and stuff like that, they will also get a percentage of all these things. But essentially, the idea is be a value creator, and at the same time expect that you will get a percentage, not full. The idea not really about so essentially it's about creating value to the rest. The relevant part about that, or the next part that is relevant about that is, I think that to me, going back to the idea of like philosophical, is like, if we have a limited amount of number in life,
limited lifespan.
Lifespan. Now, I mean, we definitely know that we have that.
Yes.
What do we want out of it? I think the earlier we get clear about that, the easier, the more congruent your life will be, the easier and happier you will be. Some people have decided that life is about just enjoying and going to travel and seeing the world and all these things, and that's great. That is something that they find their passion, and more power to them. And some find that they want to create or build something big. So I think the earlier you find what your purpose in life, the easier it is. And linking back to just now, then out of that, when you create value out of that pursuit of purpose, to a certain extent, it makes it easier, makes you a happier person. So an example would be like people who love travel. They don't want to build like a big business or brand and all these things, but through their travel, then if they share their travel, like the travel blogs or Instagram and all these things, then they are able to create value to the followers or the audience by showing them all the different places, their experiences, and all these things. And because people find value in the the videos or what they have gone through, or maybe they are able to then share recommendations of places that they have gone through, what to watch out for, what to look out for, and stuff like that, then that value returns back to them to allow them to then travel even more.
Plan, execute, iterate.
Yeah.
It's a lovely equation to life. There's value givers and then there's value vultures. And the value vultures tend to get the scraps.
Yeah.
Though they think that they're actually getting the full meal. And in reality, Elon Musk said it best. He said, you get paid in proportion to the difficulty of the problems that you solve.
Exactly.
Yes. If you solve big problems, you'll get paid big bucks.
Yeah. So linking back to just now, like that's also the reason why when we are evaluating like which business to go into, we want to go to a big space because TAM, right, the total marketplace. So then we can solve the bigger problem. I think that help to kind of like guide us compared to someone who are interested to, for example, like create a big business or build a big brand. Then the value that they build is different. So I think that there is the idea that tend to be perpetuated by various aspects of the guru or the YouTubers or whatever things. Some would promote a lot about, like the lifestyle business or, like the social business, social media and all these things. And then there are some people who, like Elon, just, or not Elon, but like maybe Gary V, like
Luke Belmar.
Yeah. Like Gary tend to lean a lot to like, the grind and hustle and all these things. It is useful for an individual, which one has more meaning for them, like which one is their purpose. And then from there, build value. Then they have to recognize that, when they're creating the value, they'll get a percentage back. So for us or for me, I feel that I've learned all these things. I know certain things. And I wanted to build a bigger impact. Going back to last time when I was doing one-to-one consulting, I can only create impact to that one individual or one business owner. And in 1 year, maybe I can do a few of these. But now I can build a much bigger impact by doing these things. And as we continue to build, eventually when we move to phase 3, then it will be more about investing in businesses and teaching them what we have learned, what we have done, and that will then perpetuate even bigger impact, hopefully. So, that would be the goal for us.
Mr. Qiu, thank you for your time. It's been a phenomenal money talk. It's been a great conversation. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and great to be able to share.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was another episode of Money Talks, an exclusive conversation with some of the most brilliant minds in business, entrepreneurship, and finance. Hopefully you guys understand what it means to plan, implement, and iterate, and continuously improve so that you can get to the next level in your business, your personal development, your career. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys on the next one.